If something governs everything, why does it leave no trace of itself? This question immediately conflicts with a dominant assumption in modern thinking. We tend to believe that what is real must be observable, measurable, or at least traceable through evidence. Laws, in this framework, are validated by their visible effects. Gravity can be measured. Biological laws can be tested. Psychological models are supported by data. If something cannot be detected, recorded, or proven through effects, it is often dismissed as speculative or unreal. Yet this assumption encounters a contradiction in everyday experience. Some of the most powerful organizing principles in human life, attention, meaning, identity, awareness, leave no physical residue. You cannot locate attention in a scan. You cannot measure meaning with an instrument. Identity is not found as an object anywhere in the brain, and yet these invisible structures decisively shape perception, behavior, and experience. This tension points toward the central thesis of this lecture. Ibn Arabi argues that the most fundamental law of reality leaves no evidence precisely because it is not an object within reality. It does not appear among effects. It conditions them. This is not mysticism in an emotional or symbolic sense. It is an epistemological analysis of why the deepest governing principle cannot appear as evidence. To understand this, we must examine how the modern mind repeatedly confuses evidence with causality. Modern psychology describes a persistent cognitive pattern, the demand for validation. People seek proof, metrics, confirmation, and measurable outcomes to reassure themselves that actions are meaningful and causes are real. When outcomes cannot be clearly traced back to identifiable causes, anxiety increases. Uncertainty becomes distressing. From a cognitive perspective, this pattern reflects evidence bias, the tendency to equate reality with what can be externally verified. Closely related is measurement fixation, the belief that what cannot be quantified lacks legitimacy. These biases shape not only scientific thinking, but everyday decision-making, self-evaluation, and even moral judgment. The consequences are measurable. Continuous self-monitoring produces stress. Outcome tracking delays satisfaction. When results are slow, subtle, or invisible, people experience disconnection from meaning. Effort feels wasted unless it produces immediate feedback. Neuroscience offers a partial explanation. The brain favors salient feedback loops. Dopamine-based learning systems respond strongly to immediate reinforcement. Processes without rapid feedbacks, such as long-term learning, emotional maturation, or ethical development, are cognitively neglected because they do not generate visible signals. The deeper problem is this. This bias blinds perception to structural causes, conditions that shape outcomes without leaving signs. Ibn Arabi addresses this limitation directly by redefining what a law actually is. Ibn Arabi is often mischaracterized as a mystical poet, but his work is better understood as a rigorous metaphysics of perception and being. His analysis is systematic, precise, and concerned with how reality is structured rather than how it feels. His core claim is clear. The highest law does not appear among its effects. It does not intervene within reality as an event. Instead, it conditions existence itself. It establishes the field within which causes and effects can occur. To clarify this, Ibn Arabi distinguishes between levels of causality. Secondary causes are observable, traceable, and sequential. You can point to them. You can study their interactions. They produce measurable outcomes. The primary law, however, is not an event. It is a structuring condition. It does not happen. It makes happening possible. This is not a denial of causality. It is a hierarchy of causation. Philosophically, this aligns with Kant's idea of conditions of experience and with modern systems theory, which distinguishes rules from outputs. With this framework in place, we can now examine the core teachings more precisely. The first principle is straightforward, but counterintuitive. The highest law does not produce evidence because it is not producing outcomes. Evidence belongs to the domain of change. Laws at the deepest level belong to the domain of possibility. Consider grammar. Grammar rules do not appear inside sentences. You never find grammar as a word. Yet without grammar, sentences cannot exist. Grammar does not cause sentences in a temporal sequence. It enables them structurally. The same applies to reality itself. The governing law does not generate events the way one event generates another. It defines the conditions under which events can occur at all. Cognitive science offers a parallel. Attention frameworks organize perception, but attention itself is rarely perceived. You notice objects, thoughts, emotions, but not the structure that selects them. The framework remains invisible while shaping everything that appears within it. This leads to a critical insight. Searching for evidence of the law is a category error. You are asking a condition to appear as a content. What makes reality intelligible cannot itself become an object within reality. Ibn Arabi explains that evidence appears only where there is separation. At surface levels, causes and effects are distinguishable. Events follow one another. Measurement is possible. Evidence accumulates at deeper levels. Separation collapses. Structural constraints do not appear as events. They remain invisible precisely because they operate universally. Neuroscience illustrates this distinction. Neural firing patterns are observable. Brain activity can be measured, but conscious awareness, which organizes attention and experience, is not directly observable. It is inferred, not detected. Ibn Arabi's logic is consistent. Evidence exists only where multiplicity exists. Unity leaves no trace because nothing stands apart from it to serve as evidence. A real-world example makes this clearer. Economic rules shape markets, but you never see the rules themselves in transactions. Individual exchanges show evidence. The underlying rules remain invisible. This corrects a common misconception. Lack of evidence does not indicate lack of operation. It often indicates deeper operation. This insight leads directly to a more challenging paradox. Here we encounter the central paradox. If the law appeared as evidence, it would become just another effect. It would enter the system it governs and lose its governing status. Governing principles must remain prior to observation. They cannot be fully observed from within the system they structure. In cognitive terms, the observer cannot fully observe the structure that enables observation. Psychologically, this has important consequences. Attempts to locate ultimate control, certainty, or proof often generate anxiety. People search endlessly for confirmation that cannot exist in visible form. Ibn Arabi is precise here. The law is not hidden by secrecy or deception. It is self-concealing by necessity. Visibility at the highest level would collapse. Structured true transparency at this level would eliminate differentiation altogether. What remains invisible does so not by choice, but by function. A persistent epistemological error follows from this misunderstanding. Absence of evidence is treated as evidence of absence. This assumption works for surface phenomena, but fails for structural realities. Some realities operate as conditions, not contents. They do not appear within experience. They make experience possible. Modern philosophy recognizes this distinction as the difference between framework and data. This clarification also resolves a common religious misunderstanding. Ibn Arabi is not advocating blind faith or irrational belief. He is offering structural reasoning. The law's invisibility is not a weakness. It is a requirement. The paradox resolves cleanly. The law is most real precisely where it is least visible. Visibility would indicate limitation. Invisibility indicates universality. Translating this insight into practical terms requires a shift in orientation. Instead of focusing obsessively on outcomes, attention shifts toward structural alignment. Psychologically, this reduces anxiety. When immediate validation is no longer demanded, emotional regulation improves. Effort is no longer invalidated by delayed results. Behavioral science supports this. Habits function long before results appear. Neural rewiring occurs gradually, without conscious awareness. From a neuroscientific perspective, long-term change happens beneath perception. This reframing encourages patience without passivity. Trusting structure does not mean abandoning action. It means understanding that not all effective processes produce immediate evidence. The practical implication is simple but difficult. Trust structure, not constant proof. The central insights now converge. The deepest law governs without appearing. Evidence belongs to effects, not to conditions. Reality does not hide its law. The mind misplaces where to look. When you stop demanding evidence from what makes evidence possible, understanding stabilizes. This is not a revelation or an emotional breakthrough. It is a quiet, epistemological correction. The law leaves no evidence because it leaves nothing outside itself.